Hi, I'm Lisa Davis. Welcome to It's Your Health TV. We're here in New York City in Central Park, and I am thrilled to be interviewing Francesco Clark. He wrote Walking Papers, a true story, the accident that changed my life and got the business that got me back on my feet. Such an incredible book. Francesco, I'm so thrilled to have you on It's Your Health TV. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm so glad. Francesco, I don't even know where to begin. Incredible. I mean, I think Michael J. Fox said it best. Walking Papers is moving, funny, and inspiring. A gift to any person dealing with a chronic illness or condition. You know, if you can, in the prologue to your fantastic book, Walking Papers, you write, quote, although my body was injured, my mind remains my own. If you can tell us about how you got injured.
It was a very kind of classic spinal cord injury. I had a summer share in Long Island, and it was a beautiful summer night, June 1st of 2002, and at the end of the night I saw the pool and I wanted to go for a swim. So I dove into the pool and I saw the metal ring ladders that are normally in the shallow end, and the deep end were in the shallow end. So as soon as I dove in, I realized I dove into the shallow end of the pool. My chin hitting the bottom, snapping my head back, and completely shattering my C4 vertebrae. I was paralyzed in a split second, underwater, completely conscious, awake, and drowning in 3 feet of water.
Gosh, that must have been so scary. I mean, I don't have words to describe. And then somebody came, obviously, and took you out of the pool. And what was going through your head when you were out of the water?
Well, I felt like an idiot. I felt like the biggest idiot in the world because I've gone swimming hundreds of times. I had dove into hundreds of pools. It felt like getting out of your bathtub and slipping and cracking your neck. It felt like this kind of ridiculousness that changed your life in a split second. And it was a complete accident, but at the same time, as an adult, you try to wonder, well, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And so all these questions kind of start surging into your head without an answer. So.
Yeah, and it seemed like you beat yourself up for a while because, again, it's something that you do all the time and then something went wrong. But, it seems like you've come to peace, obviously, that it wasn't your fault. I mean, these things are unexplained, I guess I would say.
Yeah, sometimes you just fall. Sometimes you just get cancer. Sometimes things happen. And I think there were a lot of times people would always say, do you think this happened for a reason? And they mean it from a very good place in their hearts. But then what they don't realize is that when they go home to their kids and then they go to sleep and they don't think about that question anymore, I was left with trying to answer that question, awake at 3 a.m. and saying, well, if everything happens for a reason, then what did I do to deserve this? But then I started to realize that it wasn't so much, it doesn't have to be a negative answer to that question. So then I started to realize that I wanted to do more, I wanted to be more active, I wanted to be part of the solution and not just wallow in self-pity from the injury. And that's kind of when I started to become more of an advocate for myself, for other people with spinal cord injuries, and take control of my life again.
Yeah, speaking of becoming an advocate, it seems like in the wallowing in self-pity, it almost seems like the doctors kind of set people up, some of them I should say, by saying, oh, there's no hope, you're never going to walk again, you're not going to have any more movement in your arms. That it doesn't seem like a very hopeful situation, and one of the themes in the book is about hope. And, one of the quotes that I've got to read that I love is you wrote about your family, and honestly, I've never heard of such a loving family. I want to be adopted by your parents, but I'll ask them that later. But anyway, you write about your mom, quote, she had the knack for making her children feel invincible. And that must have been I'm guessing that was a big part of what kept your hope alive.
Yeah, definitely. If I had been on my own and if I had been without this amazing support system of my mother, of my father, of my grandmother, and my brother and my sister, I would be in a bed, probably in a nursing home somewhere, not really doing anything, just watching TV. But because I have this support, of family and friends that push me and stimulate me in that way, there's no choice but get better. There was no question about that. There was no question about me, getting off the ventilator. There was no question about me starting to speak, to move my arms, to start to use my chest and my abs now, and feeling my butt and feeling my feet. And
wow. I love the story about your butt, but I don't want to jump ahead too far, but that was great. Well, I look at you now and I'm like, it's just incredible. And it was your persistence and your pushing. And, something that struck me in the book, and again, I'm not trying to be down on physical therapists, but it seemed like, they would take you in and they would stretch you and you wanted more. And they kept saying, well, we don't want to give you false hope. We don't want to give you false hope. And the thing is, you're living proof that there is more and that you just have to push for it and go to the right places.
I think that in no way is it to downplay physical therapy, because in fact I do 5 hours of physical therapy every day, and it's so important for me to do that to get better and to see this kind of recovery. But I think in any field, in medicine, there are people that like the advancements and like to do kind of a non-traditional approach and take what they've learned and apply it in a different way. And in my case, that's kind of what worked. Yeah. To take what they learned in PT school and not necessarily throw it out the window, but to evolve it. So then we started doing some crawling exercises. Even though I couldn't use my legs yet, I was starting to use my upper body. So I was starting to use more trunk stability. And then I started to use my abs more, and then my back more, and then everything started to kind of click into place. So if it wasn't for these crazy ideas that these wonderful therapists that I was working with, but also working with other therapists that maybe were a little bit negative, also made me see how you need to find a good network of people to work with.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah.
And one of them was in China, actually. And if you can tell us about that, a little bit about that experience.
Well, China was interesting because, first of all, I had never been to China. My mom had never been to China. My sister had never been there. So, to be going to a country that large and to not speak the language, and then to go as a patient to do an experimental procedure where they were taking embryonic stem cells and they were converting them to glial cells. And glial cells help to remyelinate the axons in your spine. So the theory was that these glial cells, which were injected one vertebrae above and one vertebrae below my level of injury, would form these kind of hollow tubes of myelin, of fat, and then the axons would grow. When I woke up from surgery, I could feel my ribs.
Yes.
Like I could feel them right here. For the first time in 2 years, I could feel my ribs.
Wow.
And I was wondering before I went into surgery, I was like, I wonder what it's going to feel like to feel my ribs again. It felt normal.
Yeah.
It felt completely normal. It felt like it was supposed to feel like. It felt great. And I don't know, it's hard to explain because the funny thing, it's kind of ironic, the part that's difficult to explain is actually what I feel most of the time. Yeah. To not feel my legs is difficult to explain, even though I've been feeling this for 8 years.
Yeah.
So
that must be, yeah, that's